My name's Clint Williams. I'm the chief of the Slammin First Nation in March 2011. I can see a lot of value in the treaty. One was the main one, I guess, that everybody first sees is the capital transfer, which is just a little over $30 million. And it's important that people understand what that $30 million is that the regular program funding continues on so that we will not simply just be living off of that capital transfer fund. So it's important that people people understand that. So that's the first value, and uh, the second one that I see is very important is the lands that will take ownership. So we'll go from having 1,900 hectares of land up to having 8,000 hectares of land. So having those lands create a lot of opportunity for Slam. Some of these lands have been strategically selected so that we can develop the lands much easier. There's a piece that's just in behind Edge Hill School and Duck Lake Road that is prime for development. So that's just an example because we're right next door to all the servicing, sewer, water, electricity, so we can develop that land fairly quick and economically. Uh, the benefits that I see happening are the funding is the funding that will come forward that will allow us to develop cultural programs. We currently right now have to write many different proposals to different agencies to try and access funding to preserve our language and culture, and parts of this is identified in the treaty itself. And some of the other benefits that I do see um, in the treaty are the laws that will be implemented um, uh, prior to the effective date. Very important that the people that feel that we're not ready for a treaty need to understand that if in the event that there was a yes vote, the treaty doesn't take effect the very next day. The treaty, we will need to develop laws that will match the Constitution, laws around finances, laws around governance. So all these laws would have to be created, and we would pretty much have as many laws as the province of British Columbia. And so with those laws will come security for the Slammin people. So it will not just be a free for all with the money and the lands that come as a result of the treaty. There's three important components. There's many more topics, but there's three main areas. One is the program dollars that exist today and that our people use for services, programs and services. Those programs and services dollars would carry on, which leads me into my next set of dollars, the capital transfer. Capital transfer would sit protected, so that's the $30+ million that we'd receive if a treaty came into effect. But there's one more important part of funding which would happen immediately after a vote is implementation dollars would come into SLAM, and these implementation dollars would be used to implement the treaty. So by implementing the treaty, I mean that these implementation dollars will be used to create the laws and basically build the government. So creating all the governance and financial laws that the Slammin people would live by. My opinions of the treaty settlement lands is the treaty settlement lands are very valuable. Right now, Slammin currently owns 1,900 hectares of land, which is designated Indian Reserve. And so the treaty settlement lands added to that package will bring us up to 8,000 hectares of land. These lands are very valuable. We strategically tried to pick many different areas of treaty settlement lands. There's land on Texada in the Pocahontas Bay area. There's lands on the backside of Westview, kind of in the Edge Hill area. And there's a large parcel of land that basically goes from Slammin Lake along the Bunster Hills and ties into Oakover, and also some lands up in Theodosia. There's been some wrong communication on these lands. Some people feel that these lands were barren moonscape, logged out, and little to no value, that these lands were totally useless, and that's the farthest thing from the truth, because these lands hold a lot of value. Many of them have second growth forests on them, so some very prime timber on some of this land. But it's not saying that all this wood would be logged and we would just strip it all. No, we wouldn't. We have forest tenures for that, so we would do the best to protect these lands. But some of the things that the people were saying were true, that some of these areas were logged, but these areas that were logged have been replanted, and so these areas were logged probably 20 some odd years ago. So we have areas of land that do have trees that are probably 20, 25 years old, but they've reached the free to grow stand, and the area is all greened up, and you couldn't tell that there was logging that occurred there. So just with that, I can see so much value in the lands that we will be receiving. And one parcel of land that I forgot to mention was the land that the Land Hotel sits on. So we'd also be moving from Crown land on that portion to changing that to a treaty settlement land. One other aspect that's important to think of and consider is it's not all about economics. Our Slammin people have a great tie to the land culturally, spiritually, and that's important to remember. Our people had seasonal village sites up and down the coast here and frequented many areas. We still have an Indian reserve on Cortez Island, and another important area and lands is that we will receive a parcel of land on Savory Island as well. And Savory Island's been a very significant piece of the Slammin history, and still is, because some of our people with the Area C climb license still frequent that. But so that was one of the goals in the negotiations, was to identify some land that we could call Slammin land on Savory Island. So we do have a parcel there, and so that will allow us to have our people camp or stay on the lands on Savory without harassment. Things that our treaty will allow for us to do is to do that, to gather the medicinal plants and food for sustenance, whether that be deer, bear, anything that our people have harvested traditionally from the lands and the environment.